All right, so welcome to a tutorial about how to use deformation. At the current, the version I'm doing this tutorial on for is 0.7.1. And of course, the first thing you need to do is to install Deforumation, which you can do through the extension tab. You know how to do that, hopefully. And after you've installed the forum, you get this this extension view here on this tab called the forum. I'm going to go with the basic settings 512, 512. I'm going to use Dreamshaper 8 for this tutorial. And the most important thing you need to do after having installed the forum, enable to for the Deforumation to work with the forum, is to put the forum in 3D animation mode. All right, so we've done that. Also, I always reset these motions if you don't want to use some kind of motions from the forum, because all these motions will be added to the motions that you actually do in Deforumation. So it's a choice, of course. But I'm gonna zero this out. So we zero the translation Z, which is the zoom. All the other values I will just leave default as is. This is default values. I'm not going to use any optical flow or anything like that now. Just that's another tutorial how to use the Deforum settings. But everything is default. All right. We have the prompts and stuff, but all this and the control nets, everything is going to be controlled from the formation. So just leave everything as it is for now. All right, so back to the formation. So here I've already inserted a prompt for this. That's actually from the prompt taken from CVTI and the Dreamshaper checkpoint. So I just copied this text into there, and also the negative one. They have a sampler here, but we're not going to use that. I'm just going to take the prompt, so for the time being. So that's what I pasted here into the positive prompt and the negative prompt. So the first thing I want to do before I start any generation or anything, I want to just save the prompt. Just pushing save prompt. So prompts, you can see, you can't see, but up on the window label, you can see it says now prompts saved to mediator. And specifically to frame 0. So when we start generating, it's going to start at frame 0. We have this prompt for us that is going to be used at first, anyways. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the motions, the different motions that you can do. Both manual, the classical manual motions, and then also the newly features, the new features, which are predefined motions and how you can do them yourself in a very, very easy way to do. So I have some predefined motions here, but let's not get ahead of us. Let's go back to the Deforumation tab and push start generate. So I'll push start generating here, and it's going to start generating. You see the first image is already occurring. We'll go back to Deforumation. To get the current image, you can push anywhere on the gray area here, and you will see the current frame. It's already at frame 20 now, so it's going fast here. The different motions then are panning. left and right, and also up and down. So if I push here a little bit, you will see, I'm actually gonna turn on the live render. You can see it up there. You're gonna see now, of course, it's gonna pan right. And if I right click anywhere here, it immediately goes back to 0. And if I then start pushing to pan left, it's of course going to start panning left. And I will right click anywhere on the left or right arrow, and it will immediately go back to 0. Pan a bit up, you can see the panning is working as it should. I'm using a cadence now of 4, meaning we have 4 interpolated frames in between the uh, actually it's the animation is already done, because I forgot one thing. Let's go back to the automatic screen. We want to render more than 120 frames for this, so let's do 5,000. Maybe let's do 10,000. Maybe this will be enough for the tutorial. And the output, you have the FPS here, but you don't need to care about the FPS really. We're gonna generate the movie or the final product from Deforumation. So you can set this to whatever you want. Actually, let's do 60 FPS, but that doesn't matter really. So, oh, actually, let's put this to 30, but it doesn't matter anyways. So 10,000 frames. Let's start from the beginning. So I'll push generate again, and the frames are now starting to generate again. Got because my seed is -1, of course, then it will at the beginning randomize the seed. You can put whatever seed you want here, and it will follow the kind of seed behavior that you chose in the forum. All right, so where were we? We were panning upwards at the moment, right? Which we can see that the motion is still there. And of course, we can go down and pan downwards. So that's the left, right, up, and down. So let's reset this, right clicking on anywhere, and it's back to 0. So now everything is 0. Then we have the zoom, also called translation Z. You see it goes now from 0 to positive 10 and 0 and negative 10. Of course, these are very, very, if I go up to 10, it will look like shit, because it will be zooming too fast normally, depending on how you do stuff. But it's too non-granular for me, so I'm going to choose 2 here and push return, and you can see it now goes from 0 to 2 and from 0 to -2. Now I can easily change the zoom a bit. I can go forwards, maybe a little bit faster, just so that you can see things happening in the live window. You see it's zooming now towards her. I can also now right click anywhere here on this bar, and you see it goes back exactly like when I pushed right clicked on any of these buttons. You 0 the zoom. So now it's back to 0, and I can go the other way a little bit backwards. Backwards is always fun. See if it manages to not completely get destroyed. You can see it's starting to zoom out. All right, so that's the basic of the zoom. Of course, then you have the FOV, and the FOV can be used together with the zoom or independently. So if we want independently, I can just drag this. If I drag this towards 120 here, you can see that the zoom is actually slower or is it faster? Let's go the other direction. So very little. Okay, it's slower. So now you see now the field of view is 20 and you can see the zoom. It actually influences how fast the zoom is going backwards. I can right click on this one and it will go back to a field of view of 70, which is the standard value. Let's reset the zoom here for a while. That's the zoom and the FOV. Okay, so what you can do is you can link, by pushing this button, you can link the zoom slider with the FOV slider. So if I push this link button and I start to move the zoom upwards, you see that the FOV slider is following kind of. This is now bidirectional and I can choose to go the other way. So now it's actually following the zoom value directionally also. We thought this would be a good thing, me and Lainol, to have, but the effect that we wanted to create didn't actually occur. So I don't know how usable this actually is to link stuff. But let's take this away and reset this, the FOV and the zoom again. So now everything, no motions are happening. Now we can look at the rotation. So we can look, call it look left, look right, look up, look down. So if you start looking left, we will now see it's like if you as the viewer, you are the camera, and your head is like looking towards, your head is rotating towards the left, and of course that's the motion you get here. I can right click here to reset that motion, same as all the other buttons, and let's start looking towards the right. And of course it's now starting to look towards the right. Let's reset that motion. Let's tilt our head upwards, like looking up towards the sky, and this is the button for that. And of course you can see I'm starting, or the camera is starting to look upwards towards the sky. Let's right click here to reset it, and let's go the other way. Look downwards towards the ground. And you can see that motion is also now following perfectly as we control it. You can, let's reset it. As you see, when I push here, it goes up 0.1 steps. And that has to do with the granularity that I've chosen here in the granularity box for this rotation. Then, so if I choose 0.05 and push the up button, you see now it only increases with 0.05. So this is a good thing to have the granularity box. Normally the rotation is much more sensitive than, for example, panning when it comes to how the motion is interpreted through Deforum and when generating. So you normally want quite a small granularity here and a little bit higher granularity on the steps on the panning. The zoom is also kind of sensitive, so you want kind of a small granularity on the zoom also, small steps. All right, so that's let's reset the motions here. Are there any more motions? Yes, there are. I'm going to talk about how. No, I mean those are the basic motions in 3D space. There are now ways to do a specific motion that you've already predefined, for example, and we can do this through two ways. You can do it by arming, using the arm mechanism on each of these components. And I'll first talk a little bit about the arm, how to arm and how to use that. So So let's say I want to go from zero motion here on the panning. It's yeah, standing still. It's not going left or right or up or down. So let's say I want to go from this value now 0 to panning 2 steps every frame. So from here, from 0, then I have to push this arm button. And when pushing the arm button, it's now in arm mode. So now I can, if I pan, if I set this on 2.0, you see that the live image it's not panning. So even if I'm whatever value I put here, it's not going to affect anything. It's not doing anything with the actual rendering for now. So if I put this to 2, if I unclick the arm button, you see it's back to what values are actually currently used. So I can push this again. You see we have it goes back to the arm value, which is now a positive 2.0 towards the right. So all right, so we want that, we're telling the formation that we want to go from 0 to 2.0. So you can see. And how do we then decide how many frames it will take to go from this 0 value to 2.0 value? That we decide with the 0 step box, which is located just here. So if we're doing a 30 FPS movie, maybe we want it go from it to go from 0 to 2.0 in 1 second. I will put 30 steps here, and we can start this motion by pushing the middle button here. It looks like a 0. That's why it was called a 0 step button. We called it at the beginning. I don't know why we did it, but it's called the 0 stepper, and because I think in the beginning it was meant to go from some value down, always down to back to 0, but now you can go from any value to any value. So it's not actually a 0 button anymore, more like a transition button. So when you pushed it, I can, whenever I want to start this motion. But let's not do that right away. Let's check another thing first. It's the other values here. So let's actually pause the rendering. You can pause the rendering whenever you want. So I'll push the pause button here, and you can see it has stopped. Actually, you can't see it, but I can see it in the command line. It says paused in the Deforum automatic 1111 command line. So I can see it's paused. And you can also see the live view is very static, and it's obviously paused now. So let's see, we're already at frame 627. That's a lot. But it's easier to, when you want to make a controlled kind of transition between values, you don't want, or maybe you do want it if you're more in the experimental stage, but for now I want a very precise. I want it to exactly go 1 second, and I want maybe have chosen this position as it is in now, and if I push this button now, you can see that we got the text here that says that it will go from zeros, P stands for 0 panning, and will go from value x 0.00 to x 2.00, and the y value, the up and down, we didn't, it's going to stay at 0 0, and in the end it's going to be 0 0. This motion also, it says, is going to happen at our current image now, frame, that is 627, and it will go on until 657, which is exactly the number that we chose. I mean, we chose 30 to take 30 steps, right? So so that's good. We can also choose to do other other motions, like we can arm the zoom button here. So I'll push the zoom button, and let's say we also, while panning, while going from 0 to 2 on the panning, we also want to pan up to 0.44, let's say, and we want to do that in 60 steps, 2 seconds. We want to take 2 seconds for it to go from 0 to 0.44, and in 60 frames, which if we're filming at 30 FPS is in 2 seconds. So if I push this arm button, now we get another value here, which is the 0 Z, or 0 zoom. And it says here correctly that it's going from 0, that's the current value, to 0.44. And it will do it from this frame, the same frame as the panning, 627, and it will stop at 687. So that's 30 frames longer than what the panning will take. You can see it's armed because, of course, it's easy to see up here that we have values here, and you can also see it on the button. It has an inverted color, very specifically showing that it's in arm mode at the moment, or it's actually active. Let's do the same for rotation. Let's go from 0 here to 0.15. That will start kind of an in-zoom rotation. It's like rotating around her head a little bit, or her figure in a anti-clockwise movement. And we want that to take also 2 seconds. And let's arm that. And the value is shown up here. You can see the 0 rotation motion goes from rotation right-left motion is from 0 to minus 0.15, and the up-down motion UD is unchanged. It will stay at 0. We're not tilting our head up or down. So these are the 3 motions that you can arm. You cannot arm, there is no arm for tilt at the moment. I don't know why I haven't implemented that. I never actually used tilt, but maybe it's a popular thing to have, so maybe it will be there in a future feature version. All right, so now we armed everything. Everything is armed. So if I now push resume rendering, all these motions, everything is going to be starting. So how can I track what's happening here? All these values are going to, I want to have some control of how to see all these motions when they are active now and progressing. We can see this by turning on the live values. You have a button down here called live values. If I push this button, you can see down here, you get a row of the currently active values. And we can see strength, we can see the transition X, that's the panning left, X, Y, and all these values are at the moment 0. Yeah, and then we have some other values, steps and CFG and stuff like that you can also, of course, move. PD motion, let's not care about that for the moment, but these are the 3 values that will show you the progress of the different motions that we now have activated here. They are currently none because they haven't started yet, but as soon as I push the resume rendering button, you will see that these will start to display the progress of the motions going on. actually we can go out of the arm mode. That doesn't matter. They don't need to be on. We have already armed all the modes, so we don't need to see them. All right, so if I now push resume rendering, now you see immediately you can see that 6 out of 31 steps here are being rendered for the panning, and the other one were double, so 60 frames, actually 61 because it counts the one that it stands on, so it became 61 steps frames that it's going to render this. So it's rendering, and you can see the live view is starting to. Oh yeah, I forgot one thing. Let's pause it. We can pause it. The motion, we can pause it, and the armed motion is still there. Nothing's changed. If you push resume, it's just going to continue as nothing has happened. I chose the curve type is also important. I forgot about that. All these motions now are using a linear curve. I could have chosen different curve types. So if I chosen ease in, ease out, and armed any of these, it would have used ease in, ease out on the motion, on the armed motion. So it's important, of course, that you choose the right curve type that you want for your armed motion when it's when you do the arming. But as of now, it was stuck on the default linear motion. So all these three motions are now struggling to get to the value that we chose in a linear way. So not so very smooth motion. You can specify your own curve here by typing whatever value you want if you want another kind of curve. But these are the predefined motions at the moment. So let's continue. Also, you can see that the motions here, you can see them actually displaying when I push resume here. The values, actually you can't see them. If I turn on, you can see all the actual values down here. They are changing in real time. But if you want to have a graphical view of how the changes are progressing here, up here, like seeing the sliders move and stuff, you can turn on view original values in Deforumation, and now you can actually see the values moving in real time by actually animating the values in the graphical user interface. They mirror the exact same values like down here. So, but I'll let's not view the original values. Let's just, I just need the values down here. So what happens when it gets to the last frame? Then of course it's this. The panning is already done and it's not armed anymore. You can see that. You see now these are not armed anymore. And and you can see down here that it continues on the last values that it got. So it's still on a zoom value of 0.44. It has a rotation minus 0.15 that we chose. And actually, if we turn on the original values here, you can see these values are actually the values that were the end values. So it's continuing on that track. Now, if we want to have these values, because our normal values, we had zero on all the values, the manual values. If you want to continue and manipulate the values that were the last ones, these down here, we can, if we choose again the original values, which are then mirrored to here, to the actual interface, we can copy these original values to the manual values. So I'll push this button. So I push this button. So if I uncheck this now, it did not copy them. So let's try it again. Okay, it's because the live values are on, maybe. Let's go back. I'm not sure. Copy. Let's pause the rendering. Let's see. We're at frame 759, and these are the original values that are actually being used. These are our manual values that are zeroed, and let's just try to copy them again then. Copy. All right, so now they are there. You see, if I uncheck the viewer, the manual values are now exactly mirroring the other values. Yeah, that might be because, yeah, I know why. So view original values actually mirrors the frame that you put in here, and that was yeah, I'm going to change that so it will work better. But now, anyways, if I push the resume render here now, can have the live values on. Actually, we don't need to show these original values anymore. I can start manipulating these. Let's go backwards. Let's start looking the other way. Let's zoom out a bit, go down. Very badly done motion here. We're going towards the wall, which is totally uninteresting, but you know. And you can also see the values are being used here. All right. So that's arming. So if we do this once more, I will show you how to use the original values that I didn't actually did correctly, how it's done at the moment anyway. So let's pause and let's look at how we want to go from here to some motion. These are the current motions now active. So let's go to, we were at minus, let's actually go from minus 1.4 to even more minus 2.5, a very 3, fast panning towards the left. And let's do it in 40 steps. Let's arm it. Now it says it goes from frame 799. Okay, so we're actually at 799 to 839. That's fine. And the zoom can actually go towards 0, kind of. Let's a little bit of zoom, maybe 0.11. So from minus 0.41, actually, yeah, let's do that. And you can do that in 60 steps. Let's arm that. And let's go from minus, no, we're actually going to go plus 15. So from, actually, was it, what? So it's now 0.15, but we want to go, because we're going left, we want to go right, so that's kind of fine. Let's go, let's make it 20, 25. So from 0.15 to 0.25 in 60 steps. Let's arm it. Everything looks good. So now resume rendering, and we have the live values. We can to see the actual. I turn on view original values in the information, and you can see how many steps, what step it is on. All right, so going towards the end goal, because I have this checked, of course, you can see the values animated in real time also. Now I'm going to do the same thing, the copy thing, but as I said, the original values when I push this, it's actually going to take the values that you have here, the actual frame that is given here, and 799 was actually the start values, right? So before you push this original value, copy the original values, you actually need to show the frame, have the actual frame that you want to copy in here. So let's wait for the motion to stop. You can I usually click here to get some updates here in this window also. I mean, you can see the motion up here in the live render window, but I want to be sure to follow it here so that the actual frame is shown. Now, okay, now it's done. So now now you can see the values here. If I copy the values now, if I now unclick this, you can see the values are exactly the same as they were as the end values. Now I can start manipulating this. Let's go back to 2. Let's right click this to 0, and maybe not so much rotation, 0.5. So that's how you have to do it now. I'm probably going to change so if it's rendering, I'm probably going to, if it's rendering, it's going to take the actual, so that you don't need to actually push here to get the value that is currently rendering. That's how it is now anyways. So that's the arming thing. Let's actually zero everything out. I right click here to zero this out. Let's zero this out. Now it should be still, and we can see it here. The live values are showing 0, 0, 0 on everything. No motion is going on. All right, so now let's go to predefined motions. You can see them here. Some examples. You have if you're close to a face, maybe you want this kind of rotation. You have this on clockwise rotation, but close. You can see it's called close rotation left, close rotation right, medium rotation right, medium rotation left. We have far rotation right, we have far rotation left, and then we have some far zoom in, and then you can see it says 30 FPS. I will explain, and this says far zoom out 30 FPS. I will explain the difference between these first 6 predefined motions and the last 2 ones, and how you can do them easily yourself, these motions. So let's start with this is kind of medium now. She's at the medium position, so we want to do a medium rotation. Let's do the left one, this one, the medium rotation left. But these are predefined values that will, if I push this now, actually let's pause it first. Pause the rendering, and it should pause. Now it's paused. So when I push this button, look here down on the values here. So if I push this, actually the live values are on. They are showing the live values always shows the. It will also animate these values. So let's turn live values off for a little bit. So if I push this, you can see the predefined motion here. It's -1 panning left, and you have a little bit of zoom, and you have a little bit of looking towards the left. Sorry, looking towards the right. It's a positive number. So if I push the other button, you can see the values changing here. That's anti-clockwise. So you can see the values changing here if I go between them. So those are predefined values that I found kind of doing these kinds of motions. And you can see how far, looking at the animated GIF images, you can see the motion in action. That's the actual footage or the actual rendered frames that I use to create that will give this motion with these values. And these motions are FPS independent, so the FPS doesn't matter at all. And if we have the closer rotations here, you can see the values differ a little bit. You have a little bit more zoom. The other ones had a zoom of 0.15. So these are all just static predefined values. So you can see they are changing when I push them. So these values will immediately be applied when you push one of these values. So let's try it out. I'll push. We wanted to do this rotation. So I now push this predefined motion, and the values are here. I can go back to live values. Doesn't matter. When I resume now, you see the values are actually the ones that had this motion. So let's see if it follows this motion. You can see the live bar down here. It looks correct. The zoom is 15. These values are actually the values that the forum is using. These values always reflect the actual values that the forum is working with. So down here, you always have the true values of what the forum is using. It's a good way to sanity check stuff. So it seems to be the correct values, and hopefully we get some kind of rotation that should look a little bit like this animated GIF here. I mean, it's a slow rotation. So that's going to take quite some time to see the actual thing. So I will break here and get back to you when the motion is when some frames have been rendered, so you can see that. Actually, also a good thing to do while doing these kinds of rotation is to help the process of the rotation. You can do because it's rotating now, she has the shoulder towards the camera. Maybe you want to go more because it's the rotation that we're doing is more likely to end up her with chest front. Like you can actually chest towards, you can help here in the prompt towards camera. I will put this in actually two brackets or to make it more. So I'll save the prompt here. So now it's gonna use. So I'm gonna help the process of getting the rotation more precise. So let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna pause here and tell you how it went. All right, so I'll let it go for a little bit, but I think this will show you kind of the motion. I've rendered some images, not that many more. So let's pause it here. So to look at this kind of, see if we manage to do it. So we started at about 950 or something. So I'm going to try to replay from frame 955 to the current frame, which is 1099. So I'll actually put the value up here and in the replay box. This is from frame 955 to frame 1099. So if I push play here now, if I left click, you will not get the real-time 30 FPS, but it will show you the motion as fast as it can render. It's a kind of slow rendering here. So, but if I push this, you will see it kind of slowly. The frames are adding. That's not the actual FPS now, 30 FPS. That's just a very slow raw. So you see the kind of motion that we wanted is actually it's being produced. Not very well. I know the noise values and the strength values and stuff like that. It's totally wrong. You see everything is flickering and stuff like that. But as a proof of concept, you can see the motion is being done here. Also now then, if I right click here, let's see if I can get the yeah. All right. So if I instead of left clicking, if I right click, you will see it will then use FFmpeg to actually render this range from 955 to 1099 with the FPS that you chose. It will also try if you've also you can look here at you have to put the path to FFmpeg up here for this to work. If FFmpeg is in the environment, like if you can go into a terminal or command line and you can push FFmpeg, type FFmpeg and push return, and you have it like in the environment, it's there. Then you don't have to type the path to it. You can just leave this blank. Else you have to actually point it to where you have the executable, FFmpeg executable. Also, but the backend, if you're using audio, like I have some wave file here that I want to actually to play while previewing it, this range, you can have the sound file here, point it to a sound file, wave file or MP3 or something. Also, if you're using the sound, then you need to have the correct backend. So I'm using the Windows Media Player 10 media backend here. I've chosen it. If you have Linux, if you hover here, if you look at the tooltip, I think for Linux you use the GStreamer media backend, and if you're using Mac, it's the Qt media backend. So you have to choose the correct backend. You need to, you can try them one at a time just to, if it doesn't work. But because I'm using Windows, I know that the Windows Media Player 10 media backend is by default the one that I need to use. So now if I right click here, it will actually then now produce. So now it's actually using the FPS that I used. It's showing me the range, and you can see the rotation is actually being applied here. If we could choose 60 FPS, you will see there's a difference now. If I right click, it's actually much faster. And of course, if I go like 5 frames a second, that's the video. All right, so that's how the preview works with, you can check your motions. So let's put this back to 30 FPS. All right, so that's the basic here motions that we talked about. The first 6 motions here are these basic motions. So I push here, you see the values. Let's see. The values are not changing down there. Where are they not changing? Oh, because I have live values checked. Okay, that's my mistake. So you can see that these are static values to produce the rotations that you can see here. Now, the last two ones are actually a different kind. They could have been predefined like only like this looks like a normal zoom, right? But it's actually it's using ease in, ease out, and it's actually using live. Every frame has a different kind of, so it's not a smooth. It's a smooth. It's using a ease in, ease out curve with a zoom level, and this is then every frame. So let me explain it in a little bit different way. So let's open a text file where the actual values are located. If you just give me a moment here. All right, so here we have the actual settings file uh, that handles all the motions. It's called deforumation underscore settings underscore motions.txt, and it's located inside your root of your deforumation folder. And when you get it, these are like kind of predefined for you. I will show you how you do your own. But if you look here, you can see that the first six ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they have only, if we scroll, they have only a simple array of values. These are the static values, the pan x, the pan y, the zoom value that are going to be applied to this motion. And the motion that we used was the medium rotation left, I think. So these are the values then that will be applied as we saw. Now the other ones, like the zoom here, if you look at those ones, you see there's quite a lot of arrays here. And those motions are actually frame based. So when you start, for example, the far zoom in and push that image to start that motion, then frame number 1 will get these values, which are it's the pan x, pan y zoom value. The next frame will get these values, and so on and so on. So every array here is the next frame. So it's like an animated, and it's going to use ease in, ease out value. So these are a lot of frames here that's being used. So these are FPS dependent because they are frame by frame, have frame by frame settings. When you create these yourself, Deforumation will automatically put the FPS that you chose to generate them in here. You don't need to. I will show you how to do all these motions in a very easy way through Deforumation, but this is how it looks. All right, so back to Deforumation then. So if I now, let's see, where are we? We're at frame 1099. So let's start zoom in maybe. Let's try that. And we're using 30 FPS. If I have another FPS, let's say I'm doing a 60 FPS movie, and this is made for 30 FPS. If I push this button now, it's gonna tell you, it's gonna warn you. Whoops. Now you can't see that error message, but I get because of OBS, you can't see it. Maybe I can, if I add, can I add this? Let's add a window capture and error, blah, error, blah. Add this, okay. Okay, that's how it looks. So this is the error message. Yes, looks good. So here we have. So you're gonna get this message box saying, you can't see the header there, but say mismatching FPS. This motion was done for 30 FPS. If you aim to use 60 FPS, which we chose here down in the box, you can push if you want to continue. The motion is of course going to be different because it was not made for 60 FPS. But you can choose yes, or you can just choose no to not continue. This was done for 30 FPS. I actually put 30 FPS here. So if we now push the zoom in, everything is good. So I have pushed it here now. You can't see it, but it has been pushed. I think maybe I should do some kind of, maybe I didn't push it. I need to do some kind of trigger so that you know that you push the actual motion. So if I now resume rendering, I'm going to put on the live values again. You have these PD motion, predefined motion down here. So if I push now to resume, you can see it has started the motion, and it says it's doing frame number 6 out of 159. So this motion is now being applied to the render. And if we look at the zoom value here, you can see it's actually going up, following this motion up here. And it's on frame 18, struggling to get towards 159. And when it has reached 159, it will go back to none. It will terminate and go back to none. And the last values, which I explained before, are the last values that has been used in this motion, will continually be used here. So it will just continue with the motions when it's done. So let's leave it. Let's let it get to 159. I will pause a little bit here to save you some time looking at all through the whole generation here. All right, we're closing in on towards the end. You see the zoom has gone. It's like first it accelerates and then it kind of stops. So you see the zoom is going down again, easing down towards 0. And you see the motion is almost done. I think we should reach a zoom level of 0 when it ends. And there it ends. And you can see down here, actually, it didn't actually really end. It's stuck on 001 zoom, but it's kind of 0. So, and all the other values, everything is zeroed out. As you can see, because we have the live values, it's not actually showing here. If we view the original values that are actually there, it's actually, compliant with the values down here. Now we will actually copy these values, copy original values, and now we can view them, and you see that the values are correct. Let's pause the rendering, and it's transforming into something else right now, I can see. Let's look at the actual render. So if that was 159 steps, where did we start? From where did we start? I'm not actually sure. Let's go down to 1,000 maybe. So let's play it from 1,000 to let's go a little bit back. Let's go to 1242. 1242, and you'll be able to see the motion kind of. So I'll right click here. Actually, we got there. So that I actually got some of the rotation there also. So I think I can't remember from where we can look kind of. Let's see, 1060. Is still doing a rotation? I can see. So where's this? Okay, there from 1000. Whoops, 1082. 82. Let's try that. 1092, maybe there we have the, yeah, from there somewhere. Right, but you get it is now followed. So from there now, let's see, we are here. Actually, we don't want this. We want to zoom back out. We want to use this motion here. So let's go back a bit. Let's transfer back to her face. So now I want to continue from here, from frame. Let's remember 1, 2. Actually, I want 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So from here, from frame 1, 2, 3, 4, I want to do this far zoom out. So I'll set the current image here. It's important. Set current image. I can click anywhere here to actually see that it doesn't go away from here. So it's actually set. So from here, then I want to do this. I'll click here once. Click there once, and then just push to resume rendering. And you will see it is now starting from 0, a kind of motion, and slowly zooming out. And that will of course accelerate. This one is 100. You can see it down here. It's 123 recorded frames in this motion. So it's slowly doing a zoom out, or it's gonna accelerate, of course. Now it's already up, and maybe we should make this a little bit bigger. I don't know how fast it will zoom out, but all right. So let me let's pause here, and I'll be back when it's towards the end of the motion. Also, of course, I just wanted to say it's rendering here. During these motions, it's only the pan, the zoom, and the rotation that is being used. So if you want to prompt anything else, let's take away chest towards camera here. Actually, save. I push Control S. You can push Control S, or you can do save prompt. Let's do smiling : 1.2. Let's do a big smile. I see smiling. Oh, actually, if you have live values here, the prompt will actually update while so let's turn off for a little bit, and smiling 1.2. Let's save the prompt, and let's go back to live values. You can see it's rendering here. Yeah, so she's starting to smile, and the motion is going on, and we're closing to the end. So it should be done, and let's pause it when it's done. 123, and it's done. So let's pause rendering. All right, so let's see if we can replay this. So now it's very easy. We had 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7. And we're using the 30 FPS, and let's check. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you get the idea. So that's how predefined motions work. So you want to do these yourself. It's very easy. Let's use the material that we have here. Let's look at the whole. Actually, let's look at the whole video. How does it look? Probably like crap, but this all the testings that we did. And I'll show you some panning, rotation, up, down. So, all right. Let's take that. Let's end it there. Let's just jump somewhere. 500. No, sorry, down here. 500. Where are we? Somewhere here. Let's click a bit to see the motion that we want to capture. 140. Do we have any motion going on? Wait. Let's try 600. What does that give us? Nothing is happening. Okay, there is, let's say 700. What does that give us? Okay, it starts like that. Let's say 650. Let's push play. Let's see. Okay, there we start a motion. So from 650 to maybe 740. Let's play that. I mean, it's not a very good motion, but for the sake of it, and there it ends. So there you saw that motion we want to like create a predefined motion from. So from frame 650 to 740, and we're going to use 30 frames per second to make this motion. We have these motions here. You know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 motions here. So to do this new motion, we have to click this checkbox, create predefined motion up here. And after having clicked that, to make this more advanced motion for every frame that uses the FPS, we have to now, after having checked this create predefined motion, if we right click on the play button here, we will get a message box that you can't see. Actually, you can see it. So, and it says, what will the motion be called? And you can't see the header up here, but it actually says FPS dependent. This is going to be a 30 FPS motion. You can't see it because of OBS. I don't know how it works really, but let's call this motion the famous Blaha motion. And I push OK. And the motion is created. You can find it here. You can see the motion, and it's actually the size that I use for these other predefined motions are a little bit different. So you can see it looks a bit odd here, but you can see it has captured the motion, and I can use this motion. You can give this motion away to people, and I'm hoping the community will create a lot of these motions that we can use together and create kind of a small library for it. So if we hover over it, says Blaha motion for 30 FPS. So if you copy the motion from someone and you're using a 60 FPS, as I said before, and you click here, it will give this warning message. This motion was done for 30 FPS. If you aim to use 60 FPS or so, no, I don't want to use that. Maybe someone can create a similar motion for 60 FPS that will actually work for my movie that I'm making. So, but that's how you do that. So, but then of course, a lot of people want to create predefined, like the first 6 ones here, the normal static 1 FPS independent motions. So how to do that? Let's do one of those motions. Let's see. We want to do a motion that pans. Let's turn off live value so that I can actually use manual motions. So I want to do a motion that pans upwards kind of fast, 2, and it's going to zoom in at let's make it less granular. It's going to zoom in at 1 whatever pixel per frame. I don't know actually. And then, so it's going to try to rotate up and above over her head. So while going upwards, I have to look downwards. So I'm going to look downwards like minus 0.20. So this is the motion that I want, and I want to save this motion. But I first need to produce some kind of animation. I have to show you how it will look. So I'll go backwards actually to let's see. Let's choose we have something good? Maybe a little bit closer. Let's take it from 700. 650. Okay, from there, let's try this motion here. So I'm gonna actually now also this is a good time to introduce backup. You can back up because we have done a lot of motions now. You can back up. We don't want to if we try this and it goes to hell. The motion is totally wrong. We want to be able to restore everything and try it again, right? So, but I set the current image here. But so then you can push the back up all images. So if I push this button, you can't see it up here, but it says backup done, backed up 1,358 files. That's the whole. I mean, that's how far we've gone through this. So and these files will be stored temporarily in your Deforumation folder under. There's a folder called. Image underscore backup. That's a folder that will be created in your Deforumation root folder. And in that folder, there will be at the moment 1,358 images. The whole, everything we've done up until so far. Also, you can let's talk about total recall at another point, but that's another way to back up stuff. But let's just keep the images now are the most important parts. So from this frame 650, actually let me show you the backup works. Let's do something crazy that total will destroy what we've done so far. So I'll actually let's zoom in 10, and this will create havoc probably. So let's we have the current here. The seed is correct. Actually, we can. What's the seed? The seed is actually from this frame. You can see the seed is actually 768. So I can go in here and I'll push return, and now we will actually have the exact same seed also when we start from here. So so we just keep this. It will still use the from here. It's a bit not statically stay on this seed, but use the Deforum, the actual seed behavior that you chose from here. So it will be correctly increased. So let's resume and render from this to 740. It will of course now destroy everything because my zoom is so very high. I'll start the rendering, and yeah, you already can see it's the zoom is gonna totally wreak havoc on this. Let's see, let's destroy a little bit more here. Yeah, you can see it's not really the motion maybe that we were after. Let's destroy it a little bit more. It's on a frame 669. Okay, that's enough. We already noticed this is totally wrong. This is not what we wanted. We had the wrong zoom here, and we pause the rendering. Okay, everything's wrong. What to do? Is this now destroyed? How? If we go backwards, you see all the frames that we generated from. Let's see. Let's go to 650. That's the first image that we had, and you can see it's going downhill from there. So what do we do? Then, because we backed up all the images before, we can restore all the images. I'll push the restore button here. So restore, and now restore done. Restored 1,358 files. What this does is actually taking the backup images that you have in your Deforumation folder, in the image underscore backup folder, and overwrite the Deforum folder that is being created in automatic 11.11, the Deforum folder for the images. So if I now look at 668, I'm back to the normal. So now we're back to the everything is fine again. So let's retry it. Let's go back to image 650, and let's make this a little bit more sane. What did we say? We want 1. So let's zoom 1 and let's try this motion again. Set current image 650, and we want to render 7040. So let's push to resume rendering again and see if this motion will actually be a little bit more coherent for what we want. Of course, now, yeah, you can see the motion has begun, and we can help it by typing a prompt, view top of head. Maybe that will help it to kind of in this motion. I'll save the prompt, and if we push the live values, you can see this should actually I think maybe here you can see it has been applied up here. So yeah, it's good. So let's render this motion all the way. We are currently at 600. So this is a manual thing. You can't, when we create this motion, you need to run it until whatever frame between what range you want to capture. So 740, we're at 691. All right, so a couple of more frames to render. I'll pause it briefly. All right, so we're nearing the end of the journey for this generation that we want to use. We are at 725. I'm using a 4090, RTX 4090, so it's kind of going pretty fast, but yeah, but still really not real time that you want in the future. Hopefully we'll get there someday. So closing in here, and when we reach 740, let's pause everything. So kind of now pause rendering. All right, so now the rendering is paused. We can watch this sequence, of course, I'll uncheck create predefined motion first. I right click here just to get the preview with whatever frame rate. So well, it's not exactly the motion that I wanted, but for the purpose of this, you can retry it and of course be very meticulous how you do this. You can retry and make it perfect. But let's use this. So I'm going to use this motion here as a predefined motion, but a static one using panning 2 up. Upwards 2 and a zoom of 1 and looking downwards, so it's minus 0.20. I think your buttons will have a plus and minus on it. I haven't downloaded those that Lainol put there, so my button looks different. I think your buttons will have a plus and minus and stuff. But anyways, so let's push this again, create predefined motion. I mean, we have these motions as of yet, but instead now of right clicking, I will left click. So you can't see the header up here, but it says this motion is FPS independent. What will the motion be called? And so this will now use my current motion settings, and I will call this rotating upwards overhead. Rotating upwards overhead. Okay. All right. So now we can just you can see that this motion, you can see this motion here has been created. So if we see, let's go down here and remove live values. I'll zero everything out, everything to 0, 0. All the motions are 0 now. So if I push this, rotating upwards towards head, you will see that the values that we chose has now been applied. So hopefully this image will show you approximately how this will turn out. You have the image to show that there. And also the values now have been applied, and you can whatever you are rendering, you have some kind of similarity to the image being shown here, you can get the same kind of motion. What is not in the predefined motion is, of course, the prompt. The prompt also helps with the motion, so it's not actually only the motion values. Normally you have to help it normally with some kind of manual live prompting to get the most out of the predefined values. But this is an easy way to create your own motions. And yeah, that's how predefined motions work. All right, so where were we? Actually, I will restore all images. All right, so now if we if we run this, you can see we are back. We don't have the predefined motion anymore. It's back to the original video that we generated. All right, so that's about motions. So I think I'll end it there on motions, and I'll create another video for you to understand what total recall is and how to use that. And maybe I'll add some about the general settings and the control net and stuff like that. So, but yeah, thank you. This was a brief tutorial on motion. Oh, I forgot about one thing. Up here in the predefined motions are the same, mostly are the same motions as you can see down here by the images. Although there is a motion called color motion here that is not represented with any GIF animation. That is because if we look at the file, let's go there. Here you can see I have a color motion here, but it is pointing to a Hamburg image. It does not have a path to any valid image. You can put whatever you want here. If it's not pointing towards a GIF animation, it will not be shown. It will not be shown. Sorry, it will not be shown here. You can see the images here. It will not be shown here because there is no GIF animation to be shown, but it will still be present in the predefined motions up here. And the predefined motions, if I choose color animation and you can push the use predefined motion, is the same like as clicking on one of these. Although color motion, of course, is not present here, but it's still a motion that is available. At this current time, color motion in this case is just a static motion. Static motion here that I did for testing, but it's not shown as a GIF animation because no droids to see here. That's not a valid GIF animation. So, but it's still there. So you can do like hidden motions that don't show up as these GIF animations if you like that better. And you can do this with also the advanced animation, as long as this path doesn't connect to any valid GIF animation. It will be shown, not be shown as a GIF animation, but only be available in this drop-down list. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention one thing also about motions that is kind of important. You see all these checkboxes. You have one over the panning area, you have one over the zoom, and one over rotation up here, and one over tilt. That's the abbreviation of use deforum panning, use deforum zoom, use deforum rotation, use deforum tilt. You have all the other values. I use deforum noise, use deforum control net zero, and you have a lot of these here. Use deforum strength, use deforum safety. So, but for the motion, it works like this. So if you have, for example, if I uncheck the zoom value here, that means that it will use only the deforum values of zoom, which is translation set. So if we look at, for example, here on the motions of translation set, I have now put it. It was 0. It actually looked like this. But if you maybe you have done something with the parsec or something like that, you have a beat that you want to zoom in and out to a certain beat, and you have some kind of scheduled values here for the zoom thing. If you unclick it here, then the scheduled values will be used only from the forum. So it will use the forum scheduled translation Z values. If you, on the other hand, have the scheduled values in the forum, and also you have clicked in use the forum zoom in this case, it will still use the forum scheduled values for the zoom values, the translation Z values, but it will add this, the forum actually, now you can see it. So if you have this unchecked, it's the deforum values only. If you have this checked, it's the deforum values plus the deformation zoom. So that's the thing to keep in mind. And it's the same with panning, and it's the same with rotation and tilt and so on. On the other hand, these values, the strength values, and all the other values, I call it all the other values, from cadence to CFG to noise to control nets, they will be either or. So if I have strength value 79 chosen and I've chosen to use deformation strength, it will be strength value 79. If I unclick it, of course, then I will use the deforum strength, which if we look at the deforum strength, it's at 0.65. Also, of course, as you can see, it's not strength 79 here in deformation. It's actually multiplied by 100. So so at 100 it's actually 1.0. The actual value is 1.0, and of course 0 is 0. And the same with noise here. For example, the noise is, if you have it at 100, it's actually 1.0. Yeah, so that's about it. The only thing you can't control through the forum. It has no on and off checkbox. It's the steps. So the steps are always controlled from Deforumation. Yeah, so that's about it.